What's up, guys? Welcome to another video. My name is Adam Yoder. I currently own an insurance agency that focuses on final expense, and I also own a marketing agency that generates inbound calls for final expense insurance agencies. And today I'm going to be going over 4 tips to help you guys reduce your chargebacks. If you know anything about final expense whatsoever, you'll know everybody is concerned about the chargebacks. Why? Because every single time you get a chargeback, that's a lead that you paid for, that you put on the books, that either canceled or couldn't make their first payment or whatever it is. Chargebacks in final expense are notoriously high, but they shouldn't necessarily be that way. So today I'm going to be going over the different tips that I've used to get my chargeback rate significantly lower than everybody else's and how you guys can do the same as well. First of all, we have to understand the mindset of the client, right? When somebody calls in and the agent explains it correctly, the client understands that this is life insurance that's paying for their funeral. They must know that first and foremost. So given that, we have to understand first, if somebody charges back or cancels their plan, why would they do that? Well, some of the reasons that they might do that are because the agent didn't explain things correctly, or they didn't understand what it was, or they thought it was free money, or whatever. There's a multitude of different reasons. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is just the messaging. What do I mean by the messaging? Well, when somebody sees an ad on Facebook, or if somebody sees an ad on YouTube or social media, it needs to be clear that they are calling in or they're applying for funeral coverage. They're applying for insurance that's going to cover their burial expenses, cremation, or really any other funeral expenses or end of life expenses like medical bills, credit card bills, whatever it is. What final expense is not is free money. They must know that they're going to be paying something monthly for this plan. They must know that this plan provides them a death benefit. It's not something that they get while they're alive. This is money that gets passed down to their family members when they pass away. The messaging is usually the hardest part because everybody wants to get cheap leads, so they're aggressive with their messaging. It's always better to focus on higher quality clients rather than just getting the cheapest quality leads. So let's talk about what makes a high quality client. Well, a high quality client is somebody that likes you, respects you, and they're actually calling in for insurance specifically. They're not calling in for free money. They're not calling in for fun, because a lot of people just waste their time when they're retired and older. They just dial numbers on Facebook for fun. But we're actually focusing on clients that want life insurance, that know what it is, and that are easy to work with. Now, when I'm talking to a client, I always assume that everybody is going to be a good client. I give every single person that I talk to the benefit of the doubt, and then I qualify them to make sure that they're going to be a good client throughout the process. Now, while I'm actually going through the sales process, there are a few things that I'll ask people to make sure that they are going to be a good client. Some examples of things that are going to make people a bad client is they're either too young, which means that they're under the age of 50 or 45. They're too old, they're over the age of 80. They have lots of health issues. They are just wasting time. Somebody that uses a direct express card, Cash App, Venmo, whatever else it is. Somebody that doesn't have a bank account. Somebody that maybe has a bank account, but maybe they're on disability and their money gets paid to one of their family members, so they don't actually control their bank account. Somebody that's not in the best mental shape. You know, sometimes older people have dementia or other mental issues, we'll call them, and they're just not all there. Those are examples of people that you do not want to do business with. Also, people that you don't want to do business with don't really place a high priority on this. You know, a lot of these people that we talk to do truly have a need for final expense life insurance, but there's some people that don't place a very high priority on it. They treat it almost as like a Netflix subscription that they can just cancel whenever, or they just don't take it that serious. You'd be surprised. There's quite a few people that don't take it seriously. They think that they're just going to pass away and their family members are just going to pay for everything and they don't have to worry about it. It's not the case. These people have to understand that if they pass away without any coverage and no way of paying for their funeral, there will be a big financial burden that's placed on their family members. So if somebody doesn't treat it with that level of importance, chances are they're not going to be a good client and they're going to charge back. Next, you have to understand the nature of these clients. All of the clients that you'll talk to while selling final expense are people that are typically lower income because all they receive is Social Security, disability, or military retirement. Those are usually the 3 people that are going to be looking for final expense insurance. Now, what do we know from this? We know that these people either get paid on the 1st, the 3rd, or they get paid on a Wednesday. So it's very important for us to ask these people when they actually receive their checks monthly. That way we can set the payment date as close as possible to when they receive their income. Because the way that it works with people on Social Security is that they'll get their checks and then they'll have all these other bills that are set to come out the same day or the same week that they'll receive their income. So for example, somebody gets their Social Security, they'll have their electric bill, they'll have their water bill, they'll have their utilities, they'll have their rent payment, they'll have their mortgage. You never know, but these people have bills that are set up the same time to come out as they receive their Social Security. So you don't want to be competing with these other bills that are coming later on. You want to make sure that this is a very high priority to them. And the way that you do that is you ask them if they're okay with setting the payment date on the day that they receive their Social Security or the very next day after. Anything later than that, you're at very high risk of that client charging back. Next, throughout the process, you always want to ask the person if the payment is comfortable. Even on their worst months, is this payment going to be comfortable for them? Yes or no? I typically ask people 3 or 4 times throughout the process if they're comfortable with the payment, if they're comfortable with the payment date, if they're comfortable with the benefit amount. And I really am thorough with making sure that they understand their policy, when it's going to be paid, how much it's going to be, what it's going to say when it shows up on their bank statement, what time of the month it's going to be coming out. And I text them those details immediately after I do that. I always text them the policy details once I'm finished up with the application. Also, you want to let them know that, okay, this is going to be your beneficiary. They're going to receive this much. Your beneficiary number 2 is going to be this person. They're going to receive this much. You'll also want to let them know what happens when those beneficiaries need to receive the money. Ma'am, when you pass away, your beneficiary is going to receive a lump sum of $10,000. Here's how they get it. They call into the insurance carrier, they upload a copy of their ID, they upload a copy of the death certificate. Are you familiar with how you get the death certificate? Yes or no? If they say no, then you'll explain. Okay, the death certificate's either going to come from the cremation facility, if you have a cremation, or it's going to come from the funeral home, if you have a traditional burial. So you always want to explain the policy, explain everything about it, and how that's going to work, and also explain how the beneficiaries are going to receive the money. That way you can tie in the benefit to their beneficiaries, because that's who they're ultimately doing this for. A lot of times, I'll also ask them for their beneficiaries' contact information if they're comfortable sharing it. I'll ask them if their beneficiaries want to receive a copy of the policy. I'll ask them if they would like me to notify their beneficiaries that they receive this plan, and text their beneficiaries a copy of the policy, because I want to make sure that everything is understood from all parties that are going to be involved in this situation. So that's extremely important. And then lastly, I'll also have reminders that go out letting these people know that their payment is going to be coming out soon. So a lot of these people, because they're older and they're not all there mentally, sometimes they'll forget that they actually even signed up for a policy. So before the first payment is made on the policy, a lot of times I'll send a reminder to them, just letting them know that, hey man, Mutual of Omaha is going to be taking out $72 out of your bank account on the 1st. So just make sure that you're budgeted for that, and understand that when you see it on your bank statement, that's for your life insurance. Obviously, it's impossible to completely limit chargebacks. Even the best agents will have chargebacks. They just will. It's part of the game. But if you do these things in that order, you should be able to reduce your chargeback rates to 10%, if not lower. It's all about messaging and understanding the client and helping the client understand the policy details. If you do those 3 things consistently, your chargeback rates should be better than everybody else that you speak to, and you should be able to keep a majority of your commission checks that you receive. So thank you guys for watching this video. Again, my name is Adam. I have a Discord down below that teaches people step A through Z about selling final expense life insurance and how to become a top producer doing that, just like I've become myself. And then also you guys can find me on Instagram at @A_YOD, or you can follow me on Twitter at AMYODER. AM Yoder. So stay tuned. I'll keep posting more videos, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and hopefully it'll help you make some more money. Peace.